Mysteries about Jesus that are still unsolved. Despite his long-lasting renown, there is quite a lot that we don't know about Jesus. After all, he lived and died some 2,000 years ago, long before things like photography or voice recording were a thing. We have no direct interviews with him or physical remains to test. Beyond what's in the Bible or the religious traditions that have grown from those books, we have no account of what he did or said. Even a clear-eyed reading of the Gospels won't illuminate some key facts about the man, including what he looked like, the nature of his family relationships, and even sometimes the particulars of the miracles he is said to have worked. As a result, we're left with some lingering mysteries about Jesus that remain unsolved to this day. We can't be sure when he was born. We cannot definitively determine the exact date of Jesus' birth. Despite the widespread celebration of Christmas on December 25th, the uncertainty surrounding Jesus' birth persists for various reasons. The early Christians did not initially commemorate Jesus' birth, and it was not until AD 336, 3 centuries after his death, that the Church officially recognized the occasion. The precise date had likely been lost over time. The choice of December 25th may have been influenced by competition with pagan festivals or historical miscalculations. The year of Jesus' birth is also uncertain, with the Gospel account of King Herod's search for the infant Jesus suggesting a birth before Herod's death around 4 BC. Some scholars propose that Jesus was more likely born in the summer or fall, as the Gospels mention shepherds in the fields when the angels appeared, a scenario less likely in the cold of December. However, the lack of concrete evidence in the Gospels or other historical records leaves the actual birth date of Jesus shrouded in mystery. In conclusion, while Christmas is celebrated on December 25th, the exact date of Jesus' birth remains elusive due to the limited historical information available. The focus should be on the significance of his life and teachings rather than the specific date of his birth. His birthplace isn't obvious. The birthplace of Jesus remains a topic of debate despite the traditional association with Bethlehem. While Matthew and Luke in the Bible identify Bethlehem as Jesus' birthplace, the absence of this detail in the Gospel of Mark and the Gospel of John raises questions. Mark, written around 30 years after Jesus' death, emphasizes Jesus' connection to King David and Nazareth, while John associates him with the region of Galilee, not Bethlehem. This discrepancy does not definitively prove Jesus was not born in Bethlehem, but it does add complexity to the narrative. Earlier Jewish texts predicted a Messiah from Bethlehem, possibly influencing later writers to link Jesus to Bethlehem to reinforce his messianic identity. The evolving emphasis on Jesus' connection to Bethlehem in later texts contrasts with the lack of emphasis in earlier writings. This discrepancy sparks significant theological discussions and debates at scholarly conferences regarding the true birthplace of Jesus. What was teenage Jesus doing? Based on the search results, here is a summary of what we know and don't know about Jesus' life during the missing years between his childhood and the start of his public ministry. The Gospels provide very little information about Jesus' life between the ages of 12 and 30. The only event mentioned is when the 12-year-old Jesus was found discussing theology with scholars in the temple, Luke 2, verses 41 to 52. Most scholars believe Jesus likely worked as a carpenter or handyman, referred to as a tekton in Greek, during this period, based on the reference in the Gospels to him being known as the carpenter, Mark 6 verse 3, Matthew 13 verse 55. The lack of details in the Gospels about these missing years has led to many speculative legends and apocryphal texts attempting to fill in the gaps. These include stories of Jesus traveling to places like India, Japan, or Britain to gain mystical knowledge. However, these accounts are not considered historically reliable. Some have proposed that Jesus may have studied with groups like the Essenes or Pharisees during this time, but there is no firm evidence for this in the Gospels or other historical sources. The Gospels seem to have intentionally focused on recounting Jesus' public ministry and teachings, rather than providing a comprehensive biographical account of his entire life. The missing years are left largely unexplained. In summary, the Gospels provide little concrete information about what Jesus was doing during the 18-year gap between his childhood and the start of his public ministry at around age 30. The most likely scenario is that he worked as a carpenter, but the specifics of this period remain a mystery. The date of his death is debatable. The search results provide insights into the challenges of determining the exact age of Jesus when he died due to inconsistencies in the gospel accounts and differences in timekeeping between the ancient world and modern times. The Gregorian calendar, established in 1582, contrasts with the ancient Jewish method of calculating days from one sundown to another, complicating precise dating. The Gospels suggest Jesus died around Passover, with Mark 14 verses 12 to 14 indicating the Last Supper occurred during a Passover meal. While some scholars suggest a specific date like April 7th, AD 30, Helen Bond argues that the evidence points to Jesus' death around Passover between AD 29 to 34. The exact date remains elusive due to these historical and calendrical complexities, making it challenging to pinpoint a specific day for the crucifixion. We don't know what Jesus looked like. The exact appearance of Jesus remains a mystery, as there are no known first-hand descriptions or physical remains to definitively determine what he looked like. However, we can make some informed guesses based on common features of Judean men in the 1st century AD. Researchers using skeletal remains from 1st century Galilee have created a model of Jesus with medium brown skin, relatively short curly hair, and a muscular build typical of a manual laborer. The earliest known Christian artwork from the 1st to 3rd centuries depicts Jesus as clean-shaven with short hair. The long-haired, bearded image of Jesus is more of a Byzantine invention from later centuries to make him appear philosophical and authoritative. Images of Jesus have been heavily influenced by the cultures and perceptions of the time period. Depictions of Jesus tend to show ethnic characteristics similar to the culture creating the image. It believes that certain images like the Shroud of Turin or image of Edessa are historically authentic or have authoritative status from church tradition remain powerful among some of the faithful, but their accuracy is debated. While we can make educated guesses about Jesus' appearance based on historical context, the exact details remain a mystery. The images of Jesus that have emerged over the centuries reflect more about the artists and cultures that created them than the actual historical figure. The true appearance of Jesus is lost to time. We aren't sure he was single. The question of whether Jesus was married remains a mystery and a topic of debate among scholars. Here are the key points. The Bible does not definitively state whether Jesus was married or unmarried. Early Christian leaders like Paul referred to the church as Christ's metaphorical wife, but the Gospels are silent on his marital status. During the early church, some argued celibacy was preferable while others claimed Jesus may have been married, as early as the 2nd century CE. However, Christian tradition has long held that Jesus was unmarried. The Gospel of Jesus' Wife, a 7th to 8th century Coptic papyrus fragment, contains a line where Jesus refers to "my wife." Some interpret this as a real wife, while others see it as a metaphorical reference to the church. The fragment likely reflects early debates about women's roles in the church rather than Jesus' actual marriage. The fragment's authenticity is disputed. In 2016, evidence emerged suggesting it was a modern forgery created by a German-American man named Walter Fritz. Most scholars now believe the Gospel of Jesus' Wife is not a genuine ancient text. In summary, while the Bible is silent on the issue, the early church debated Jesus' marital status. The Gospel of Jesus' Wife fragment, even if authentic, would only show some early Christians believed he had a wife, not prove he was actually married. The question remains unresolved due to lack of definitive historical evidence. The fragment's likely forgery further complicates the debate. How could he have walked on water? The search results provide information about the miracle of Jesus walking on water, specifically in Matthew 14 verses 22 to 33. This event is a significant miracle in the New Testament, where Jesus walks across the Sea of Galilee during a storm to meet his disciples in a boat. The disciples initially mistake him for a ghost but are reassured by Jesus, leading Peter to walk on water briefly before becoming afraid and needing Jesus' help. The mystery surrounding how Jesus walked on water has led to various theories and interpretations. Miraculous explanation. Many view the event as a miracle, a demonstration of Jesus' divine power over nature. Natural explanation. Oceanographer Doran Knopf proposed a theory suggesting that the Sea of Galilee, being a freshwater lake, could have partially frozen over due to cooler climate conditions at the time. This could have provided a thin, precarious surface for Jesus to walk on. Interpretation of Greek text. Some scholars suggest that the original Greek text's phrase, "upon the sea," could be translated to mean that Jesus was walking on the shore or through the shallows. This interpretation implies that the disciples misunderstood the situation due to low light and adverse weather conditions. The exact method by which Jesus walked on water remains a mystery, with interpretations ranging from a miraculous event to natural phenomena or misinterpretations by observers. The diverse theories and perspectives on this miracle continue to spark curiosity and debate among scholars and believers. It's not obvious what Jesus was doing between death and resurrection. According to the biblical accounts, Jesus died on Friday and was resurrected on Sunday. The events that occurred on the intervening Saturday, known as Holy Saturday, are not explicitly described in the canonical Gospels. However, there are some references in the Bible and early Christian traditions that suggest what may have happened during that time. In Luke 23 verses 42 to 43, Jesus promises one of the criminals crucified with him that they will be together in paradise that day, implying Jesus went to heaven after his death. 1 Peter 3 verses 18 to 20 and 1 Peter 4 verse 6 suggest that after his death, Jesus went and preached unto the spirits in prison, and that the gospel was preached to the dead. The Apostles' Creed, an early Christian statement of faith, directly states that Jesus descended into hell after his burial. These biblical references and early Christian traditions led to the development of the concept of the harrowing of hell in medieval Christianity. This belief held that on Holy Saturday, Jesus descended into the underworld to preach to the souls of righteous people who had died before his time, freeing them from their imprisonment and leading them to paradise. The harrowing of hell became a popular subject for medieval artists who depicted Jesus triumphantly defeating demons and liberating the souls of the dead. However, the specific events of Holy Saturday are not clearly described in the canonical Gospels, leaving room for theological speculation and artistic interpretation. Did Jesus think he was the Messiah? The search results provide insights into the mystery surrounding whether Jesus himself believed he was the Messiah. For modern Christians, the idea that Jesus was the long-awaited Messiah is widely accepted, but questioning this notion is considered heretical. The followers of Jesus quickly proclaimed him to be the Messiah predicted by earlier Jewish thinkers. Religious scholar Bart Ehrman argues it's likely Jesus believed he was the Messiah, citing statements in the Gospel of John where Jesus calls himself the Son of God and Messiah. However, Ehrman acknowledges the Gospel of John was written around 90 to 100 AD, a generation after Jesus' death, and these statements could be inventions of the Gospel writer. The earlier Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke do not have Jesus directly claiming to be the Messiah, which raises questions if he actually made such claims. In summary, while Jesus' followers and modern Christians believe he was the Messiah, it remains a mystery whether Jesus himself claimed this identity. The Gospel accounts differ in their portrayal of Jesus' self-understanding, with the later Gospel of John presenting the clearest messianic claims, but the earlier synoptic Gospels being more ambiguous on the matter. Scholars continue to debate this unresolved question about Jesus' own perspective on his role as the Messiah. Who were Jesus' siblings? The search results provide insights into the mystery surrounding Jesus' siblings. The Gospels mention Jesus having brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas, as well as unnamed sisters. There are three main views on the relationship of these siblings to Jesus. A. They were Jesus' actual half-siblings, children of Mary and Joseph. B. They were Jesus' stepbrothers, children of Joseph from a previous marriage. C. They were Jesus' cousins. The Catholic Church holds the view that Mary remained a perpetual virgin, so these siblings were either cousins or children of Joseph from a previous marriage. Supporters of the half-sibling view argue this is the most natural reading of the Gospel references. Opponents argue younger siblings would not have taunted an older brother as Jesus' brothers did. The cousin view is based on speculation about the identities of Mary's sister and Clopas. Most scholars believe James, the leader of the Jerusalem church, was one of these brothers. In summary, while the Gospels clearly state Jesus had brothers and sisters, their exact relationship to him remains a mystery. The matter has been debated since early Christianity, with the Catholic Church rejecting the idea of biological siblings due to the doctrine of Mary's perpetual virginity. But the biblical evidence itself does not definitively resolve the question.